Today, I'm going to be teaching you all how to find arrowheads. Not only am I teaching you how to find arrowheads, I'm going to teach you how to find whole campsites. Identification of stone tools, how to know if something's worked or not. We are going to cover it all. So this is a complete beginner's guide. I'm going to cover as much as I can. It's going to be chock full of information so you guys can get out there and start finding some points. We're going to cover how to look, where to look, what to bring. My mistakes as a beginner, which, you know, I probably walked over a ton of points, just not knowing things. So I'm gonna save you guys that trouble. Feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comments. I will try to respond as best as I can to them. Stay tuned, guys. Should be a good one. Let's get into it. Now, there are 3 things you gotta do if you wanna find arrowheads. Number 1, find a water source. You need an ancient water source, whether that be a river, a creek, a spring, anything like that, or even an ancient lake. It needs to be an ancient water source. As you can see, this creek has been running through this valley for thousands, if not maybe even millions of years. And as it's done that, it's cut this side here. It's always a great area to sift for points. Find water. Water is number 1 on the list for a reason. Ancient people couldn't live without water. You can't live without water. Find the water. Now, once you find that water source, you're gonna walk either direction from it. That direction's crap because it's a cliff. We're gonna walk away from the water until we find high ground close by. You see, the natives would live close by near the water because they need it for cooking, cleaning animals, drinking, bathing, everything. Almost every aspect of life requires water. Now, water wasn't just for drinking and bathing. Water was also good for hunting, because what else needs water? Animals. Animals go drink the water, you can hunt them easier. So that's why, another reason you'll find a lot of points in creeks and near creeks. Okay, we've walked from the water. It's probably only about, I'd say maybe 70 yards away. Right here's our high ground. And you want high ground that goes up and then tabletops off flat. They would camp right on top of that flat tabletop. And I have found things up here. Found broken points, tons of flakes, imported material, but it was only a small campsite. At the worst, you find a small campsite. That's not terrible. You can always find points there. And every time it rains, come back, you'll find something new. Number 2, find the high ground. Now you need to find disturbed ground. This happens to be a food plot. They farm this, and the plow will till up the soil. When they do that, it brings up layers of history. The oldest of that being around 12,000 years from my area, which is called the Paleo-Indian period. But most plows don't get that deep, so I'm stuck with a lot of middle archaic stuff. So as you can see, creek right there comes up above the flood line, and then tabletops off in this wide plain. This is where they would camp. Water source, high ground, disturbed ground. You're gonna find points. Trust me on this. Well, now that we've located our area to search, you might ask, East Coast Lithics, what do I do now? Well, you're gonna look for flakes and debitage. Now, what debitage is it's a broken piece of stone from the production of stone tools. So, this piece of quartz right here is hit with a hammerstone. Now, the resulting fracture leaves what's called a flake scar on the stone, like that. Now, the resulting shards are what's referred to as flakes. These very, very thin, sharp pieces of stone are what we call flakes and debitage. Only certain stones do this. Not every stone will flake very well. It has to contain a lot of silica, and silica is just a fancy word for glass. So the glassier a stone is, there's fire rock. The glassier a stone is, the easier it is to work and make into points. Now, if you can find flakes, whether that be rhyolite flakes, flint flakes, chalcedony, quartz, you really never know. But there's a worked piece, it has flake scars on it. Now, a key characteristic of a flake is something called the bulb of percussion. Now, the bulb of percussion won't be on every flake you find, but on you guys with a lot of higher quality material than I do, with your flints and cherts, you'll most likely have a ball of percussion, which is the exact impact mark. It's like a little bump, and that is almost a dead giveaway that you have found a flake. You guys, I just walked into this field. Oh my gosh. I hope I can find it again. I'm only a couple steps into this field. Oh, where did it go? Look at this. Look at that. Now that is a point. That's how it is. You find your water. Got a river right over here. River right this way. All right, I'm gonna switch you guys to the iPhone so we can get a really good close-up of it. Oh my gosh. That thing is perfect. Look at that point. That's rhyolite. Oh wow. It's on a pedestal and everything. All right, let's pull it. Oh my goodness. Is that a Brewerton? Look how thin that is. I believe that's a Brewerton. I could be wrong about that because it's got a bifurcated base. Good Lord. Look at that banded rhyolite. Oh my gosh. That is a smoker. Might be a Susquehanna broadpoint too. You guys see that point? See how thin it is? That is a really pretty point. Look at the bands in that rhyolite.
Here's a great site I like to use. It's a really good site because it gives your regional points. So what points you'll be finding in your area. You can search by alphabetical order or just general point shape. That's normally how I do it, and then I'll check my region. It gives you the age of the point, the culture, if available. It gives you so much information about the stuff you're finding. It even gives you lithic analysis. So typically what your points will be made of from different materials, different areas. All around great site. I'll leave a link to that in the description and probably some other sites for you guys to check out.
I believe this might even be a Kirk actually. My guess is Susquehanna Broad. That's what I'm going. Look at this. You can even see the market left on the pedestal. What a crazy find. Oh my gosh. That is sweet. Middle Archaic-ish. You guys, this is what happens. If you follow these steps, you will find stuff like this. I promise you. When you see one of these things poking up out of the ground, looking up at you, your heart stops. And it's just you in that point, and you have a connection to that person thousands of years ago. And that is my favorite part of this hobby. Just the connection to the past. You have to realize someone made this, I think, probably about 6,000 years ago, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. Now, every artifact has a story. And considering how good condition this is, I would say this was lost on a hunt. The entire dart, Adelaide dart, was probably lost and never recovered. All that remained was this stone tip. But it's also a lot closer to the creek, which makes sense why I'd be finding more projectile points and stuff. This is probably, probably shot at a deer that was coming back from getting a drink and never recovered. That's the story of this point. Right here, we got a prime example of a flake. Now you see how there's a bulb up here where this is struck off. The impact happened right here. This is a percussion flake. And it's very, very sharp on the sides, almost razor sharp. And it's very thin. So pretend that this corn cob is what we call a core, where the flakes come off of. Hammer comes down, hits it, and that flake will peel off like that. Flake and a point. That's a good sign, ladies and gents. All right, you guys, now we're gonna check out creek hunting. I want to share with you my tips, what's worked for me, what's made me successful here. So you see that gravel bar right here. Every time a creek goes around a bend, it's normally gonna have a gravel bar out all along there, and even all the way around that bend. There's a huge gravel bar there. Sadly, I am on the wrong side of the creek, so I gotta find a way to cross. Once I do, I'll get back with you guys. Now, it couldn't hurt to check out that bank right over there. You see where all the mud's falling out and everything? Who knows, we'll see what's up there. And as you're walking along the muddy side of the bank here, now that you, oh look, there's some onions. It's honestly pretty sweet. You know what flakes and debitage look like, because you were just taught that, right? So if you find any flakes or anything of that sort, definitely check out that area a little bit closer and just be scanning back and forth up along here until you come to where it gets a little higher and you can see a bit better in the strata. A lot of times stuff will just be poking out of here. We'll keep looking. Wait, what is that? That might be an artifact. That was a live find there. Huh. It could be a pivot for a bow drill. That's pretty sick. Look at that, guys. Well, I'll get back with you on that one. That is pretty cool. I might have to check this place out a little better since that happened. Holy crap. All right, that just proves my point, guys. Check the cut banks. If I found more flakes here, a great idea would be to come back and sift all this mud from underneath this bank here, but I haven't found more sign than just this. That might be enough to make me come back. We'll see. Oh yeah, I finally found a spot to cross. This tree is fallen over the creek pretty recently, actually. Still got buds on the sticks and everything. That moss is slick though, so we'll see if I make it across dry. Please don't fall. There could be artifacts laying in this dirt, actually. Whew! I don't see anything in there, but at least I'm on the other side of the creek, so we can hit those gravel banks. There's a boatload of stinging nettle. I can make some good bowstrings out of that. It's actually edible too, believe it or not. Stings like the dickens, hence the name stinging nettle. It's a really cool plant. I think people should cultivate it more. All right, as we're approaching this gravel bar here, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look in the size of gravels here, because a lot of times creeks will sift the stones into sizes. Now, if I'm looking for points that are about this big, I'm gonna wanna look about here, towards the water's edge. There's a piece of quartz, some glass. We'll see what we can find up on here. Make sure when you're doing this, you're looking for edges, you're looking for colors that stand out, because work stone stands out color-wise. And it also reflects light a lot differently because of all the flake scars in it. So you want to make sure you're just looking at anything that stands out to you in particular. You'll get used to it. Trust me, you'll get an eye for things. Now, here's an example of something that is not an artifact. Just because it has a hole in it does not mean that it is an artifact. That's called a hagstone. And what happens is you have a piece of iron pyrite in there. And when the iron pyrite dissolves out and the stone's left around it, you get a hole. And they're pretty cool. I like finding them. But they are not native artifacts. So don't go around saying, oh, I found a pendant. No, you didn't. You found a hagstone. Cool find. Here's a cool little bottle bottom. Bourgeois. Bourgeois? Bourgeois? I don't speak French. In English, it says Bower Joyce. But I know it's a French word that I can't pronounce. Come back to your gravel bars after a good high water episode, because usually that high water will churn up your gravel bars and you get a whole new layer exposed. So points you normally wouldn't have seen will be sitting right on top. Looks like a muddy bank. Under all that silt and mud is big chunks of gravel. And who knows how many points and artifacts are just sitting under this mud layer. That's what a sifter's good for. This lighting is really good because it almost equalizes everything. If that makes sense, doesn't cast any shadows. You can see everything equally. It spreads the light out a lot better. Overcast days are really good for arrowhead hunting, unless you're looking in the water, because then you get a bad white reflection. Then you want sunny days. Hunting fields, I could do either. The honey ham snack stick. 5 grams of protein. Eight stars. So here's what I'll typically bring arrowhead hunting with me. got my lunch here. It's only if I'm going out for a while. Bring a good amount of water. Bringing a good amount of water is really important, especially in the hot sun. You start to get dizzy, and you're like, man, I really should have brought water. So yeah, bring a little 32-ounce little bottle with you. Couldn't hurt. Bring a backpack to carry all that stuff. Doesn't have to be a big backpack or anything fancy. Just a bag that you can throw over your shoulder and carry around with you for a good portion of the day. And then here's a really important one. A padded container. Because if you find a point, you don't want that thing broken. And if you get around like I do on a bike, it's difficult to keep that point safe while you're riding, because you don't want to put it in your pocket with some other rocks and damage it. So you just get a Tupperware container, throw some cloth napkins in there, or paper towels for padding. Make sure it has a lid and locks tight. And yeah, you can also make your own. I like to make them with foam. But yeah, Tupperware container with padding. That's a really important one. Bring a hat. I like to wear my hat like this when it's sunny out. Keeps the light out of my eyes. And like this when it's overcast like this usually. Bring boots, jeans, keep thorns off me, and a sweatshirt. Again, for thorns and bugs and ticks. That's what I bring arrowhead hunting with me. And this right here is exactly what you want. You got a creek. You got this whole plowed field, which, you know, there's probably stuff in this creek too. Find stuff in the creek, I know there's stuff in that field. And just walk real slow and scan real close to the ground, look for any colors. Anything that really pops out. I have weird material around here, so you guys will definitely... Oh, there's an insulator. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that's pretty. Bright green, blue, aqua. I don't know what they call that. It's one of my first insulators, actually. All right, well, those are things that happen in creeks. Random stuff just washes down. Don't forget to be aware of your surroundings. That's also a very important part of this. As you can see, this is called a cut bank. It's where the creek erodes the entire side and exposes history in the layers. That looks like it might be a quartz flake. Maybe it was. I'm gonna do a little jump. I think I'll make it. And yes, I did. Just take a look and see what kind of rocks are popping out at us. Not seeing too much yet. Now we are going uphill from the creek. There is a rise there. So there is the potential for an Indian camp to be up there because it's above the water line. Because that creek's been bubbling through there for who knows how many eons. Hasn't really had a good rain on it. When you get good rains, it washes all the dust off. And it's so much easier to see the points. I have a good feeling about it. Can't get too discouraged this early on. So you can see, we had this almost kind of a trough that's cut out. You see it? You guys see that? It's all the way down in here. And everything will wash out of here. And it's just gonna sit in this trough. Always check these troughs. Wherever water is able to wash away dirt, that's always a great spot to check. All right, ladies and gents, here's our first real sign. Still walking that trough here. Look at this. See that thing? Now that is a worked piece of quartz. It's a chunk. You can tell because how shiny it is and all the conchoidal fractures. I'll talk more about those. That is a worked chunk of quartz, so we know we're in the right area. We've found a lot of sign already. Here's a flake. That's a flake of quartz. Hopefully it's showing up all right on camera. I don't know how my exposure is on this thing yet. There's definitely stuff in this area. Getting excited. Hopefully we'll find a point. Being in close proximity to a creek right here is really awesome. Because when your field is plowed right next to a creek, they weren't just living around them, they're also hunting around these creeks. Over time, they're hunting in the same areas that previous peoples would have been living at. Sometimes you get crossovers. To really be good at finding artifacts, you need to understand and learn how and where these people lived and why. I actually just might have found something right here as I'm talking to you guys. See this? That looks like a quartz point. I think it's a broken quartz point. That is, that's crazy. I promise you that's not staged. I don't stage my finds. That's, I think that's quartz point. All right, let me get the phone out. We'll get a better shot of it. Hold on. Wow. That was a coincidence. Let me set my GoPro somewhere safe. I think that's a point. At a minimum, a tool. I'll have to analyze that a little bit later. I think it might just be a scraper tool, but that is 1,000,000% worked. All right, let's get back to this thing. Best time of year, probably before the farmers plant. Whenever that is in your area, walking a field, you don't want to be walking after they planted. They're not going to want you in there when the seedlings are coming up, because you'll step on their plants and kill their crop, which is bad. When they plow the field and then it rains, that's the best time to go. We just might have an artifact over here. There go my knees. Look at that. Oh yeah, that looks like a tip to me. It's broken, but oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at that thing. Wow. That sucks. That is really disappointing. Hopefully the camera's picking it up good, I can't tell. But that is super thin. That is super thin quartz. That would have been a knife blade of some sort. We can actually go to the creek and wash it off. Creek ain't too far away. I'll just have to drop in, I guess. Oh, all this dog bane. Well, that's not dog bane. I don't know what kind of plant that is. Man, if that would have been whole. All right, here's what we got so far. Got a little core, got a little work tool. Not too sure what it is yet. And then this broken smoker. Oh my Lord. That has some fine edge work on it too. See, that probably would have been out to here. Creek's right here. Found the knife right there. I am telling you guys, these methods work. Now, rarely do I ever find the other half, but it has happened. I've seen it happen to people. Eventually, you'll get an eye for it. You'll learn like what the edges look like and what the workings look like on the outside. Just keep looking. I originally didn't think much was going to be in this field, and what do you know? Let that be a lesson to you all. Looking for points, it's a really good idea to walk your rows back and forth, one after the other, alternating. You know, just walking it in lines. My problem is, I like to find a piece, I'll run over to that row, I'll stay in that row, I see another piece, I'll run over to the next one. It's just a problem because it's very inefficient and you don't cover ground the correct way. And I've been walking in this creek on the side of the road. Oh my goodness. Now, this happens in arrowhead hunting sometimes. Sometimes they're fakers and sometimes they're points. Tell me what you think that looks like. Let's see. Oh, maybe. Nope. That's a faker. That's how it is sometimes, guys. Especially with quartz. Quartz is always doing this to you. Okay, feet away from the wall. It probably came down from here. I pulled this out without thinking of it. I didn't think much of it because it looked like just a piece of quartz, but it kept going. And going. And going. Oh my goodness. That could be a prismatic blade, actually. That could be. Dude. Oh my gosh, that's what that is. I think that's a prismatic blade. All right, you can tell because of the ridge right here. There's a ridge that runs along, and this would have sat on a core like this, and they would have pushed it till it flaked off. That is pretty freaking cool. Never found one of those, but I've seen a lot about them. But yeah, always take a look in the walls. I've seen some crazy finds. People found some crazy stuff in those walls there. Here's another good area. See where it's really shallow? You can spot stuff really easily in the shallow gravel. Let me explain something. So, you're gonna have your creek, right? Creek's gonna be flowing this way. You have a site right here upstream. All the flakes are gonna be washing out of that site downstream. Stuff like this. If you walk upstream and you stop finding flakes, that means that you went past your site, where all the material's being, sourced from and fallen out of. So if you walk until you start finding more and more flakes, the highest concentration, generally, that area is where your flakes and points are going to be falling out of the bank. And then once you find that, you can dig it. Usually there'll be sites closer to the top of that, first 4 or 5 feet of that area. They're not going to be all the way down here. That's like millions of years ago, so don't even think about just trying to dig there for stuff. But yeah, once you find your site based on the flake concentration in the water, you got yourself a dig site. Find some arrowheads. It's important to remember when you're walking a field with a creek nearby that creeks haven't always been in that exact spot. Over time, they'll shift and wiggle and snake around, and they entirely change their direction sometimes. So you got to be very cognizant of that aspect of creeks. There's a piece of clay pigeon. The new hunters will look at this and say, oh my gosh, I found one. Nope, that's natural shaped rock. See how thick it is? That would have had a working edge on it. It's the wrong material. It's really slaty, like I could probably break a piece off with my hand. And it just isn't an artifact. There's no sign of flint napping on it. And even ground artifacts, like sometimes in New York and Alaska, they'll have ground artifacts. This shows no sign of being worked. 'Tis but a rock. Getting discouraged because you're not finding anything in a field. Just give up. No, I'm just kidding. Don't give up. Keep finding points, because you will. That's my logic. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something. Please come back.